Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The air was heavy with the scent of forgotten times, mothballs, and a ghostly trace of perfume long expired. Rain pattered against the ancient glass, a quiet companion to the somber task awaiting him. Sorting through the remnants of one's past was a difficult journey, but this process held a unique sadness, like unwinding the tapestry of his grandmother's life, thread by delicate thread.
Where do I even begin?
He sighed, raking his fingers through his hair. The weight of the lawyer's words still pressed upon him. Weston Morgan now presided over his grandmother Eleanor's estate. His eyes trailed across the room, taking in the lifetime of memories encased within. Then, a singular focal point drew his attention. An ornate wardrobe, its presence filling the bedroom wall. There was an allure to it, a beckoning, perhaps drawing from the craftsmanship of its dark walnut frame and the warm, aged brass. Weston crossed the room and pulled open the double doors. The scent hit him first. Cedar and lavender sachets, a combination forever connected to memories of his grandmother. His fingers trailed across hangers filled with vintage clothing, still wrapped in protective covers. At the far end, something caught his eye, a garment bag that looked newer than the others. Curiosity piqued, he carefully removed it and laid it across the four-poster bed. The zipper glided down smoothly to reveal a stunning emerald green cocktail dress. The fabric caught the afternoon light, shimmering with subtle iridescence. Weston lifted it from the bag, admiring the craftsmanship, delicate lace trim that bordered the sweetheart neckline, a cinched waist, and a skirt that would likely fall just below the knee.
From the 50s, I'd guess,
he whispered, turning the dress to examine it from all angles. A small tag sewn into the side seam confirmed his suspicion. 1954, according to the faded ink. Weston wasn't sure what compelled him to hold the dress against himself, but he found himself standing before the full-length mirror, the emerald fabric contrasting with his simple white t-shirt and jeans. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Marcus's name flashed across the screen.
"Hey man, how's the sorting going?"
"Endless," Weston replied, carefully returning the dress to its hanger. "I've barely made a dent." "Still on for Drinks Friday? You sound like you could use a break." "Yeah, definitely. See you then." After ending the call, Weston returned to his cataloging task, but his thoughts kept drifting back to the emerald dress. There was something about it that felt significant, though he couldn't pinpoint why. The next 3 days passed in a blur of sorting, organizing, and reminiscing. By Thursday evening, Weston had cleared most of the main floor, but had deliberately avoided returning to his grandmother's bedroom. The dress lingered in his thoughts, a persistent, distracting presence. That night, after microwaving a solitary dinner, Weston found himself climbing the stairs, drawn back to the master bedroom, as if pulled by an invisible thread. The house creaked around him, empty except for the ghosts of memories. The dress still hung where he'd left it, emerald fabric gleaming in the soft lamplight. Without fully understanding his own actions, Weston removed the dress from its hanger and laid it carefully across the bed. His fingers traced the intricate lace detailing at the neckline.
"What am I doing?"
he murmured, but didn't stop. Next to the wardrobe stood his grandmother's vanity, its surface cluttered with vintage perfume bottles and makeup that probably should have been discarded years ago. Weston pulled out the small bench and sat, staring at his reflection in the trifold mirror. The face that looked back at him was tired, angular, with 3 days' worth of stubble. Dark circles underscored his eyes. His slender frame had always made him stand out among his more athletic friends. Built like a distance runner, was Marcus's diplomatic description. The drawer of the vanity slid open smoothly, revealing an assortment of makeup that appeared surprisingly well preserved. Weston picked up a tube of red lipstick, turning it over in his hand. The brand name had worn off, but the color remained vibrant inside the gold-toned case. Without allowing himself to think too deeply about his actions, Weston opened the tube and applied the lipstick to his lips, carefully following their natural outline. The result was startling. How such a simple addition could so dramatically alter his appearance. Emboldened, he reached for an eyeshadow compact. The powder was dry, but still held pigment. Using his finger, he applied a soft brown to his eyelids, then found a pencil eyeliner and carefully traced his eyes. Each addition transformed him further, creating someone new in the mirror. His gaze drifted to the dress spread across the bed. The house was empty. No one would know. The fabric felt cool against his skin as he slipped out of his clothes and carefully stepped into the dress. It slid over his hips with surprising ease, as if tailored specifically for his frame. When he zipped up the back, a contortionist's feat, the dress hugged his waist perfectly, creating a silhouette he'd never imagined his body capable of achieving. Turning to face the mirror, Weston gasped. The person staring back at him was both familiar and foreign, his features but softened, transformed by makeup and framed by the elegant neckline of the dress. The emerald color brought out flecks of green in his hazel eyes that he'd never noticed before. He ran his hands down the sides of the dress, marveling at how it created curves where he'd always been straight lines. Something was missing, though. His short hair didn't match the elegance of the outfit. Another search through the vanity drawers revealed a hairbrush and several hair accessories. Among them, he found a small hairpiece. Auburn waves that matched his own hair color so perfectly, it was uncanny. With trembling fingers, he clipped it into place, the additional length falling just past his shoulders. The transformation was complete. Weston barely recognized himself. The person in the mirror wasn't him. It was someone else entirely. Someone feminine, elegant, beautiful even.
Meredith,
he whispered, the name coming to him unbidden. It had been his grandmother's middle name. On impulse, Weston reached for his phone. Before he could second-guess himself, he snapped several photos, capturing this version of himself from different angles. In each image, the person looking back seemed to grow more confident, more comfortable in the emerald dress. The fantasy complete, Weston carefully removed the dress and makeup, returning everything to its proper place. That night, he slept more soundly than he had since arriving at the house. The next evening, Weston met Marcus at their usual bar downtown. The familiar environment felt strangely uncomfortable after the previous night's experience, like he was wearing a costume rather than his normal clothes.
"Earth to Weston,"
Marcus said, waving a hand in front of his face. "You've been spacing out all night. What's going on with you?"
"Sorry,"
Weston replied, taking a long sip of his beer.
"Just tired from all the sorting."
"Found anything interesting in your grandmother's stuff? Valuable antiques? Secret family recipes? Embarrassing photos of you as a kid?" Weston laughed.
"Nothing too exciting."
The conversation moved on, but Weston's thoughts kept returning to the emerald dress and the photos hidden in his phone. The evening wrapped up earlier than usual, with Weston claiming exhaustion from his week of sorting. Back at the house, Despite his claims of fatigue, sleep eluded him. At 2 a.m, Weston found himself once again in his grandmother's room, the dress in his hands, makeup spread across the vanity. This time, he took more care with the transformation. He watched YouTube tutorials on his phone, learning how to blend eyeshadow and contour his cheekbones. The results were still amateur, but significantly improved from his first attempt. The dress felt right against his skin, familiar now. The auburn hairpiece settled into place as if it belonged there. Looking in the mirror, Meredith, smiled. There was freedom in this secret, in becoming someone else within these private walls. More photos were taken, each one capturing a growing confidence. In one, he even managed a genuine smile, something rare in photos of himself as Weston. This pattern continued for several days. During daylight hours, Weston sorted through his grandmother's belongings, made arrangements for donations, and handled the administrative tasks of managing the estate. But, at night, Meredith emerged, growing more refined with each transformation. The disaster came on Tuesday. Weston had connected his phone to his laptop to transfer some documents and forgotten to close his photo gallery. When Marcus stopped by unexpectedly to drop off a book he'd borrowed, he glimpsed the open laptop screen while Weston was in the kitchen making coffee. Weston returned to find Marcus staring at the laptop, his expression unreadable. The mug slipped from Weston's fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor, coffee spreading in a dark puddle.
"I can explain,"
he started, though he had no idea what explanation could possibly suffice. Marcus looked up, his face surprisingly calm.
"Is this you?"
Shame burned through Weston. He couldn't speak, could only manage a slight nod.
"The dress fits you perfectly,"
Marcus said, with none of the disgust or mockery Weston had braced himself for.
"Green's definitely your color."
"You're not freaked out?" Weston managed, grabbing paper towels to sop up the spilled coffee, grateful for something to do with his hands.
"Should I be?"
Marcus closed the laptop. "Look, we've been friends since college. Did you think I'd bail because you like wearing dresses sometimes?" Put that way, it sounded so simple, so inconsequential.
"I don't know what I thought,"
Weston admitted.
"I don't even know what I'm doing, honestly."
"Do you have a name? When you're like this?" Marcus gestured toward the laptop. The question caught Weston off guard.
"Meredith,"
he said softly.
"It was my grandmother's middle name."
Marcus nodded, as if this made perfect sense.
"Well, Meredith seems like she could use a night out instead of taking selfies alone in this big house."
"What are you talking about?"
"Dinner, tomorrow night, that new place on 5th Street.
Marcus spoke with the casual confidence that had always defined their friendship.
"I'll pick you up at 7. You want to take me to dinner? Like this?"
Weston gestured vaguely at himself, unable to comprehend what Marcus was suggesting.
"Unless you'd rather stay cooped up in here forever."
Marcus picked up the broken pieces of the coffee mug.
"This doesn't have to be complicated, Wes. I'm your friend. If this is important to you, then it's worth exploring."
After Marcus left, Weston sat alone in the quiet house, thoughts racing. The idea of stepping outside as Meredith terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. Could he actually do it? Did he want to? The answer came to him as he drifted off to sleep. Yes, he did. The next day passed in a haze of nervous anticipation. Weston spent hours practicing his makeup, trying to achieve a look that was polished, but not too dramatic for a first public outing. The emerald dress, now familiar against his skin, seemed the only possible choice. At 6:30, Weston, now transformed into Meredith, stood before the mirror making final adjustments. The auburn hairpiece had been carefully styled to frame his face, softening his jawline. Light contouring had subtly altered the appearance of his features, making them appear more feminine. The emerald dress caught the light as he moved, its vintage cut emphasizing a waist that seemed smaller than he remembered. A text from Marcus announced his arrival, setting Weston's heart racing. This was real. This was happening. Taking a deep breath, Meredith descended the stairs, feeling the unfamiliar sensation of walking in low heels, concentrating on maintaining balance and poise. Marcus waited in the entryway, dressed in a sport coat and slacks. His eyes widened slightly at Meredith's appearance, but his smile was genuine.
You look amazing,
he said simply. I'm terrified, Meredith admitted, voice soft and uncertain.
That's okay,
Marcus replied.
We'll take it one step at a time.
The restaurant was upscale, but not ostentatious, with subdued lighting that felt mercifully forgiving. Marcus had requested a corner table, offering some privacy while still being part of the dining room.
How are you feeling?
He asked once they were seated. Like everyone is staring at me, Meredith whispered, eyes fixed on the menu.
They're not,
Marcus assured.
And if they glance over, it's probably because you look great in that dress.
The compliment brought warmth to Meredith's cheeks. Thank you. I still can't believe I'm doing this.
Tell me about the dress,
Marcus suggested, redirecting the conversation to something concrete.
It looks vintage. It is.
From 1954, according to the tag. I found it in my grandmother's wardrobe. Running a hand over the fabric, Meredith felt a connection to it that transcended mere appreciation for its beauty. It feels important somehow. Special.
Maybe it was special to her too,
Marcus observed. The server approached, professional and courteous, referring to them as folks, and avoiding gendered terms, whether intentionally or coincidentally, Meredith couldn't tell but appreciated nonetheless. Ordering a glass of wine helped calm Meredith's nerves. By the time their appetizers arrived, the worst of the anxiety had subsided, replaced by a strange, exhilarating freedom. This was the first time Meredith had existed outside the confines of the house, had engaged with the world rather than just with mirrors and photographs. I found some old photos of my grandmother, Meredith said between bites of bruschetta. From when she was young. She was beautiful. Auburn hair, just like this. Fingers brushed against the hairpiece self-consciously.
Did you choose it to match hers?
Marcus asked. Actually, the hairpiece was hers too. It matched my natural color so perfectly. It seemed, I don't know, meant to be somehow. As dinner progressed, Meredith grew increasingly comfortable, occasionally forgetting to monitor posture and voice, simply enjoying the conversation and the experience. Marcus, for his part, treated the evening as he would any other dinner between friends, with warmth, humor, and genuine interest.
What happens next?
Marcus asked over dessert.
After tonight, I mean.
The question caught Meredith off guard. What did happen next? This had all begun as a private exploration, a secret indulgence. Going public, even in this limited way, changed everything. I don't know, Meredith admitted. This wasn't exactly planned.
Do you want there to be a next?
Marcus's question was gentle but direct. Looking down at the emerald dress, feeling its fabric against her skin, Meredith considered the question. Yes, she finally said. I think I do. The drive home was quiet, both of them processing the evening. As they pulled up to the house, Marcus turned to face Meredith.
"I had a great time tonight,"
he said.
"So did I."
The words felt inadequate for the magnitude of what had occurred.
"Thank you.
For everything. For not freaking out. For suggesting this. For treating me like a person."
"You are a person,"
Marcus replied simply.
"Whether you're Weston or Meredith, you're my friend. That doesn't change."
Inside the house, after Marcus had left, Meredith stood before the mirror once more. The evening had changed something fundamental. The person reflected in the glass wasn't a costume or a character, but an authentic part of herself, a part that had been buried for too long. Over the following weeks, Meredith ventured out more frequently. Small outings at first, coffee shops, bookstores, a matinee at the cinema. Marcus accompanied her initially, but gradually Meredith gained the confidence to go alone. The emerald dress remained special, reserved for significant outings, but Meredith expanded her wardrobe, finding her own style that honored the vintage inspiration of that first dress while incorporating modern elements. Weston still existed during daylight hours, managing the estate, handling professional obligations, maintaining the parts of life that required his male identity, but increasingly, those hours felt performative, while the time spent as Meredith felt authentic. 1 month after that first dinner, Meredith sat at the vanity, carefully applying makeup that had become second nature. The doorbell rang, interrupting her routine. Marcus stood on the porch, holding a small gift bag.
"Special delivery,"
he announced, handing it over. Inside, Meredith found a vintage-inspired brooch, a delicate emerald set in silver filigree.
"To match the dress,"
Marcus explained.
"I saw it in an antique store and thought of you."
"It's beautiful," Meredith said, touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift.
"Thank you." "There's something else,"
Marcus continued, suddenly serious.
"I found an article about your grandmother."
He pulled out his phone and brought up a digitized newspaper clipping from 1955. The headline read, "Local designer makes splash with spring collection." Below it was a photograph of several models wearing elegant dresses, and, standing among them, a striking woman with auburn hair. "That's her," Meredith whispered, recognizing her grandmother immediately. "I had no idea she was a designer." "According to the article, she specialized in custom pieces for women who couldn't find ready-made clothes that fit them properly," Marcus explained. "She had a reputation for being incredibly inclusive for the time, working with women of all shapes and sizes." "Including women who weren't born women?" Meredith asked, the implications beginning to dawn. "The article doesn't say that explicitly. It couldn't have, in 1955, but reading between the lines, yes, I think so." Meredith sat down, processing this revelation. "The emerald dress, you think she made it for someone like me?"
"Or for herself,"
Marcus suggested gently. "Have you ever wondered why it fits you so perfectly?" The possibility was overwhelming. Had her grandmother understood this part of herself? Had she experienced the same feelings, the same disconnect between inner identity and outer presentation?
"There's more,"
Marcus said.
"I found her journals in the attic while helping you sort last week. I wasn't sure whether to show you, but now—"
From his bag, he produced a leather-bound book, its pages yellowed with age.
"I only read enough to understand what it was,"
he assured her. With trembling fingers, Meredith opened the journal to a page marked with a faded ribbon. The handwriting was elegant, familiar from birthday cards and Christmas notes. April 15th, 1954. The emerald dress is finished at last. When I wear it, I feel truly myself for the first time. Edward doesn't understand, cannot understand, but in these private moments, Eleanor can emerge. Perhaps one day, she won't need to hide. Tears blurred Meredith's vision. Edward had been her grandfather's name, which meant, "She was like me," Meredith whispered. "All this time I thought I was alone in feeling this way, and she understood." The journal continued, detailing a lifelong journey of hidden identity, of brief moments of freedom found in fabric and design, of creating spaces and garments that allowed others like her to express their true selves, even if only in private. After her husband's death, Eleanor had lived more openly, though never completely. The social constraints of her generation had never fully released their grip. But in her design work, in creating safe spaces for others like her, she had found purpose and community. The dress wasn't just a random find, Meredith realized. It was a gift. She left it for me to find.
She must have seen something in you, Marcus agreed. Some recognition, even if neither of you acknowledged it.
The revelation transformed everything. What had begun as curiosity had become exploration, then identity, and now inheritance, a connection across generations, a legacy of courage and self-discovery. In the weeks that followed, Meredith read through all of her grandmother's journals, absorbing the struggles and triumphs of a life lived in the margins of accepted identity. The parallels to her own journey were striking, though Eleanor had faced far greater obstacles in her time. The final decision came gradually, then all at once. Weston's appearances grew less frequent, then ceased altogether. Legal name changes followed, then hormone therapy under the guidance of a specialist. The emerald dress hung in a place of honor in Meredith's closet, a reminder of beginnings and of the grandmother who had, perhaps unknowingly, prepared the way for her granddaughter's emergence. 1 year after first trying on the dress, Meredith hosted a small gathering at the house, now fully her home, redecorated but with key vintage pieces preserved. Marcus was there, along with new friends made along the way, and a few old ones who had proven their worth through acceptance. Meredith wore the emerald dress for the occasion, paired with the brooch Marcus had given her, and her now naturally auburn hair styled in loose waves reminiscent of the 1950s. The hormone therapy had softened her features further, creating a harmony between inner self and outer presentation that once seemed impossible. During a quiet moment, Marcus found her in the kitchen, refilling a tray of hors d'oeuvres.
"You look happy,"
he observed. "I am," Meredith confirmed. "For the first time, I feel complete, like I'm not playing a role anymore."
"Your grandmother would be proud,"
Marcus said. "I think she knew," Meredith replied, touching the fabric of the emerald dress. "She couldn't live fully as herself, but she made sure I would have the chance to try. This dress wasn't just fabric. It was permission." Marcus nodded, understanding the significance.
"Ready to rejoin your party?"
Meredith took a deep breath, savoring the moment. The journey hadn't been easy, and challenges remained ahead. But standing there in the emerald dress that had started it all, surrounded by people who saw and accepted her true self, Meredith knew that she had found her way home, not just to this house, but to herself. "Yes," she said, smoothing the emerald fabric one last time. "I'm ready."
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!